Sierra Oscar Foxtrot, this is 614. Status check on podcast. I'll copy over.
614, this is Sierra Oscar Foxtrot. Roger, copy all. Podcast going live. Time now.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Sierra Oscar Foxtrot podcast. I'm your host, Brian Stanfill, and with me is Sam Crazy Eyes Castillo. You know
How's
why?
it going, man?
It's going great. You know why I'm calling you Crazy Eyes?
What's that?
It's just the way you look. You look at me, and it's like there's something going on back there.
Uh-huh.
I mean, like mass murder type things going on back there. I'm thinking, you're thinking.
That's funny. What's that? You watch Rick and Morty?
Yes.
When they look into the mind of the talking cat.
What does the talking cat say? Now, I haven't seen the
There's an episode where they look into, so one of the characters and they look into his brain and his thoughts, and as soon as they look in, they have to go away and they start puking and screaming, and it's like, oh my God, ah! That's sometimes what it feels like in this brain, but as you know, a lot of background noise on a daily basis, based on life experience that led us up to this point.
Oh, yeah. Road rage.
Yeah.
Always.
Yep.
So, inspiring minds want to know more about you, sir. Where are you from? Talk about your humble beginnings.
Okay, so I was born a poor black boy, right? Steve Martin. No, I actually grew up in the military. My dad was a pilot, so born in Texas, moved to Germany, then Alabama, Fort Rucker,
Nice.
and then where did we go after that? Georgia, Fort Gordon, then to Hawaii for a couple years. Then we came back to El Paso, Texas, and that was the late 80s when my dad retired. And that's where we stayed until he got a job with Eastern Airlines, which was headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia.
So he was a pilot?
Yep. Yeah, he flew attack helicopters in Vietnam, and then did 20 years as a pilot, Army aviators, they like to call themselves, right?
Yeah.
But, so he did that
Oh, that's
for
awesome.
20 years, and then retired, worked for the airlines, and that's how we ended up in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
And
So what, now I love Germany. I was there
absolutely.
in the 90s, 98, 99.
Where were you?
Left 2000. Eder Oberstein.
Okay, yeah, I know where that is.
You know?
Yeah, because I was stationed there my early days in the Army.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I was in the Wiesbaden,
Oh,
Mainz
okay.
area.
Oh, gotcha. Wiesbaden. That's
Yeah.
not bad. I once coached the baseball team, like the Little League
Yeah.
guys, and that was where their tournament was.
That's awesome.
Oh, I know. That was kick-ass time.
Yeah, Germany's hard to beat, man.
I know,
Back
especially.
in the old days.
Were you married or single?
Married.
It's a little different taste there.
Yeah, we won't get into that right now, but yeah, it's just fun. There's so much to do there, and Germany was cool, man. And I was there as they switched over from the Deutschmark to the Euro.
Ooh.
So
that was like, what, 2003, right?
2000, no.
02, 03.
Yeah, 02, 03, that time frame.
Yeah.
But so at my house, I still have like a jar full of old Deutschmarks that are worthless now.
I left there in 2000. I went back in 03 just to visit.
Uh-huh.
And it was like insanely crazy because it went from a 2-to-1, 2 marks to every dollar.
Yep.
And they're like, let's just make it the same and just call it the euro. And it was like everything was just the same price, only they said instead of the mark, the euro. It's like, I mean, that just devastated me because everything was way more expensive.
Yeah, it was like the euro was equivalent to the dollar, even more.
That was
Like,
horseshit.
Yeah, I remember the Germans, some of the people we knew called it the Teuro, and that has to do with saying it. There's a German word toy something that means expensive. Or, I can't remember.
Let's see. Preiswert is cheap.
Yep. But I thought that was...
Yeah, teuer.
Toya,
it's
yeah, so they call it the Teuro.
expensive. You didn't know I knew German.
Yeah, look at that. Oh, yeah.
Ambition.
Yeah, exactly. You
Oh
shoot
my
again.
God, I almost forgot. I forgot it all. I used to do pretty well,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it's funny. There's another example. When we were leaving Germany, my wife, she was really good at it. So she'd get on the phone and start going down. But a year later, after being back in the States, what was that word?
Yeah, exactly. There's
a
nobody to
perishable
talk
skill.
to, yeah. And then, you throw these other languages. Like, so what made you decide to go Army? Was it your dad?
No, actually, I'll try to be brief here. I was actually anti-everything growing up. So I was a little punk rock, green mohawk, leather jacket, like throwing rocks at buses and just smash the establishment kind of kid. And I kind of painted myself into a corner from bad habits and partying too hard. And really, I ended up to where I was working in a warehouse unloading trucks, call it a lumper, and I would wake up at 3 in, drive an hour, and spend all day unloading trucks, and then get paid nothing for it. Yeah. And I was just getting sick of that. And I had dropped out of high school. I had nothing. So, and then one day I just kind of ran out of options, and it was like, I could keep doing this the rest of my life, or I could do something else. And the recruiter called and answered some questions and said, you know what, let me give this a shot. So that's when I went and took the ASVAB, and I scored high enough on the ASVAB, they gave me a military intelligence job.
Okay.
And back then, the MOS was called 33 Yankee, which was the repairing military intelligence systems. So all the stuff they used to collect information, I learned how to fix all that stuff. So it was a pretty cool job. Huh. And that MOS, I went to basic training, and then I went to Fort Huachuca, home of MI, for a year to learn that job. My AIT was like 48 weeks.
All right.
And, the usual, how long is infantry basic? And infantry,
4
OSIG.
weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like 4 weeks to
8
become an
weeks.
infantry guy.
Yeah.
I was in my MOS for 48 weeks.
Oof.
And in the process, I got my top secret clearance.
Oh,
so I was 22 and just finished an AIT and had my top secret clearance, and I went to go work for the National Security Agency.
No shit.
Yep.
So you know all the secrets.
So yeah, we worked with some of those programs, but again, I was a hardware network guy, so I worked with like patching cables and fixing them and computers and networks and all that stuff. And
Gotcha. So
Yeah.
electric tape was your best friend.
exactly.
Nice.
Yep. And I'm really good with the soldering iron.
That's cool.
But from when I worked there, I deployed to Bosnia in the late 90s.
So did I.
Yeah. And let me try to funny experiences, right? But it was cool because I was an E4. I was probably early 20s, and I went to Bosnia and working for the National Security Agency. So when I landed, there was a bunch of infantry dudes on the C-130, and they grab all their shit and they go somewhere, and we're all waiting in a little terminal in Tuzla. If anyone's ever been there, you remember that hot mess. And these guys have to wait in line and in process, and some Navy guy walks up and asks for me. Hey, I'm looking for Sam Castillo. Oh yeah, that's me. Okay, let me grab your shit. Let's get out of here. And they have to go, walk to their barracks, and I jump in an SUV, Land Rover, with this dude, and we go take off to go where we're going and do what I was doing there.
Bunch of sad little soldiers, and you're like, ha.
Yeah, but it was one of the first moments in the Army. We're like, who the hell is this guy? Like, but it was a cool experience because I got to work with Scandinavian soldiers, Swedes, Norwegians, Danes, and actually lived with those guys and girls for 6 months.
Really?
Yeah, on a little, I think it was the Scandinavian base or the Polish base. It was a unique experience because there was like 12 Americans, all MI people doing different jobs, but I got to go live there.
I got to hang out with the Turks when I was in Bosnia.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, so we went, and they were not too far from Sarajevo.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it was like one of the steel mills. I remember that. And yeah, we had to pitch our tents. We lived at very uncomfortable confines of our tents on like near these railroad tracks. It wasn't fun there, but it was a cool experience because I got to learn all the Turkish cuss words.
Oh yeah, that's the best part about it. Like, meeting all these guys and these people. Like you learn their customs and
just at least to say the greeting. You walk by, you're like, marhaba, nasilsiniz, and they're like, whoa, you speak Turkish? I'm like, nah, that's all I got.
Yeah, then they start talking back, you're like, oh no, that was it.
A couple cuss words too, but we don't want to talk about that.
Exactly. Well, what is it, when I got to Special Forces, my first ODA, the team motto on the t-shirt, what was it, Dari, I think, for motherfucker.
Oh yeah.
And it said that on the t-shirt, and it was funny because I remember being in the gym, we're all working out, and the group commander walked in and saw the shirts, and he's like, hey, what does that mean? And team leader looks at him, not hesitating, goes, blue skies, sir, blue skies. And then the commander just kind of nods like, fuck yeah, that's cool. So it was cool, but we did some PMT or something, and you know how you PT and that shit.
Yeah.
And all the interpreters and like role players, they were from Afghanistan, all these places. They turn around, they saw the shirt, they're like, "What the fuck?" And they just get pissed, you know, because they take it a lot more seriously than we do when it comes to curse words.
Oh yeah.
It's like they just read it and they want to fist fight. You know,
I
it's
mean,
interesting.
just because it has their mother in it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's horseshit. I mean, they're way oversensitive.
Sometimes, and again, it's such a. The best part about the military for me was being exposed to different cultures, whether it was the Turks or the Italians or the whoever, or just getting to understand Afghanistan, the Afghani people a little bit. Interesting.
Yeah.
Iraqis too, man. Like, just to have that one-on-one experience with them versus what you read in a book or, you know, what you see on the news or something, and, you know, build relationships with some of these people.
So you're big into music.
Big time.
Were you in a band before you joined?
Yep. So, my claim to fame when it comes to that is when I was in high school, like I said, tear the government down, you know, it all sucks. And what's funny is we kind of come full circle, but based on what's happening today. But yeah, I was in a band. We played the Atlanta punk rock scene, and the biggest group we ever played with was Blink-182.
Did you? No shit.
Yeah, we opened up for those guys. And it was back when no one ever knew who the hell they were. It was like 50 people showed up. But it was a good time, man. It was cool. So we were on our way to be kind of a maybe professional band, maybe build a name, but, you know, typical teenagers who are worried too much about drugs and partying and the other stuff that we kind of went our separate ways. And some of the guys are still playing professionally.
No shit.
Yeah, they're musicians, so. But it was fun, man. But it's I ran out of steam with that. Realized it wasn't going to go anywhere. So what next?
Yeah.
So that's where, again, the only option I had was the Army. So let's give that a shot and see where it takes us.
Oh, yeah.
So it's what is it? And what do I tell people? You got me going now. Thanks.
I know. That's what we do.
One of the things I tell young people, if they're considering the military or anything, right? 3 words I've learned: have a plan. Because I never did. I still don't, right? But before I joined the Army, I just fucked off and bounced around. Let me try this. Let me try that. Let me try whether it was a band or skateboarding or whatever it was. And then I joined the Army, and yeah, I'll try that. Because when I went to the MEPS and did all that stuff, they offered me the military intelligence job, interrogator, and gas pumper.
And gas pumper.
Yeah.
Well,
but they didn't even like throw infantry at me.
You could be a scientist or you could pump gas. Which do you want? I mean, we got these high-level, very smart jobs up here. But we found that you're also especially qualified to pump gas.
Yeah. It's so interesting to me.
The broad spectrum of the Army.
Yep. And what's a little side note? My recruiter was a Special Forces guy. And super cool dude. And what's funny is... you know, driving up to the MEPS, he came pick me up and to drop me off. And I remember going, like, what's up with that Special Forces thing? And he's like, you know, trying to explain it to a fucking simpleton.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that sounds kind of cool, man. I never thought about it again. It's like, yeah, whatever. And then a couple years later, when I got the bug, because in Bosnia, it was in 1999. I'll tell this quick story. I remember being on our little compound, and these dudes pulled up in an SUV and they jump out and they got like the long hair and the cool glasses and hands in their pockets and pistol stuffed in their belt and American uniforms, no name tags and all that stuff, or the JCOs over there.
Yes.
But we bullshitted for a few minutes and then they left because we weren't what they were looking for. But the bottom line is, told my buddy later on about these dudes, and he looked at me like, holy shit, you saw them in real life, you know, like this really shocked look, and oh my God, I can't believe it. And so I started researching that organization.
Yeah.
And said, this looks interesting. This looks like fun. Let's give it a shot.
I tell you what, for me, just quick little thing on me.
Man.
I started out in the reserves. My first sergeant was long tab. And I was a combat engineer, 12 Bravo, light wheeled in Orlando, Florida. And he was a carryover from the National Guard from the reserves when they were still SF before they went over National Guard.
Right.
So he was long tab. Went to Germany. That was my first real active duty assignment. Our PA was long tabbed.
Oh, nice.
I know. And he was the one, the first time I went to selection, and I'm like, all right, what do you got for me? I need some advice because I'm going to selection. I don't know what it's about. You know, help me.
Exactly.
You know what he said? Fucking don't quit. I'm like, okay, all right. But that doesn't tell me anything. I'm like, give me more.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't quit. Come on, you're not going to tell me more. But,
do your best, don't quit.
Yeah, that didn't help. But then after that, you know, I tried it, didn't make it the first time. Went to the 82nd, and I had some PLs that were long tabbed.
Oh, nice.
So it was like they were there, and then we had Bobby Cinco every time we deployed. He was out there, and he was an influence too, you know?
The legendary.
The legendary.
Yeah, he was the first art there when out of selection when I went through.
Yeah.
And those people that walk in and just make an immediate impression, he was one of those personalities, no doubt. It was interesting for me going to 7th Group, and you know, you hear these names, and you know, that was one of those ones. Everywhere you go, it popped up,
Bobby
and it's
Cinco.
just this legendary status, and yeah, really, really cool guy.
Now let me ask you this: were you typecasted?
How's that?
Well, you went to 7th Group. Your name's Sam Castillo.
Oh, so no shit. I remember. You know what's funny about the Q course is it's always changing, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know what the fuck is happening nowadays, but what I mean by that is my experience was I took the D Lab. You know, remember that?
Oh, yeah.
I took it as a fucking private coming into the military because they knew I was going to be an MI guy. They thought I was going to do that. But anyways, point of that being is when it came to assigned languages, they started calling out the names and what they had. And they said my name and they said Persian Farsi. And it's like my goal, and I'll tell you this, my goal
Farsi.
when I went to selection was to come to Fort Bragg and stay at Fort Bragg. I don't fucking know why, to be honest with you. But again, what was the attraction to SF was you don't PCS every 3 years. You could stabilize, and we could buy a house and settle down and raise the family in one place and not have to move all the time.
Yeah.
That was really attractive to me. But I wanted to stay at Fort Bragg. And so they gave me Persian Farsi. And after they called out all of that, I walked up to the guy in charge and I said, dude, check it out. Like, look at my last name. Like, come on. And he's like, fuck it. And then he just put Spanish. And that's pretty much how I got Spanish as a language.
Gotcha. And of course, then you definitely weren't going to 10th Group.
Exactly. No. And there were times when I said, you know what, I kind of picked the wrong. I wouldn't mind being at Fort Carson.
My language was Arabic.
Nice.
Oh.
Painful.
It was, yeah. You know.
So that means you're a smart motherfucker.
You know, I don't know about that. I thought it was a great idea. I went with German at first, but then my buddy talked me out of it.
Okay.
Yeah, because, you know, German was my second language. And then he was like, man, you got to come to 3rd Group, because he was in 3rd Group. So
right.
I'm like, all right. So I changed.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
So you retired out?
Yep, I retired. Did 20 years and some change.
Okay.
Yep.
And did you have a plan when you retired?
Not really. Actually, that was the first time where I really started thinking, let me figure out the next steps. And again, I did pretty much half my time in the military was as an MI guy. I started at Fort Meade, Maryland at the NSA there. Then I went to Germany. And from there we deployed to the, OIF 2. We followed up the invasion after 3rd ID, and those guys pushed in. So in Baghdad for 15 months back in 2003.
Oof.
With 1st Armored Division. And
1st Armored.
Yeah.
That's where I was in Germany.
Yep, yes, exactly, same here. And what was it? We were over by one of the palaces off the Tigris River there, and right over the wall was the task force guys.
Okay.
So I'm sitting there in like full battle rattle on a guard tower, and I see these dudes walking around and driving ATVs, and every night the little birds would take off. I'm like, I'm in the wrong job, man. This shit sucks. You know, I'm babysitting kids in Iraq because remember being those ranks as an NCO, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm middle management.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I did about half my time in SF, and I never had a plan there. I just said, hey, that looks interesting, let me go try it. Hey, that looks interesting, let me go try it. So some of the things I did there. So I never had that career-minded, I'm going to be a sergeant major, I'm going to do these things. I just didn't have that discipline or drive to do that. So, if you look at that, my kind of career, it's like, man, this guy's, what the fuck was he doing, right?
Yeah.
But again, just trying to, okay, I've done this, I'm bored with it now, and then let me do something else. And getting out of the Army, I remember it was a senior guy, sergeant major, said, the best thing you could do for yourself is that last year in the Army, take care of yourself. The Army, when you leave, they don't care.
Yeah.
Like the Army hasn't called me once to say, we miss you, come back, right? And for good reason, for those who know me. But seriously, about a year out, I started getting all my civilian credentials for medical stuff, my paramedic license and advanced, credentials. So.
You're a Delta.
Yep. Yeah, I was a medic, 18 Delta. And again, I didn't want to go PA or any of those routes just because the ones I worked with and saw on the civilian side just didn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But into that, I got the idea that I want to own my own business and go that route and try my hand at that. So on my way to retiring, about that last year in the military, I focused on getting all my credentials and civilian side stuff and lining all that stuff up and, trying to find out what was out there. So I kind of had a half-ass plan.
Yeah.
And that's what I pursued when I got out. Just the bottom line wasn't a certain profession, just being in charge of my own life.
Sure.
And that's when I started 3 businesses until the current one. So I've probably sunk $250,000 into nothing trying to get these businesses off the ground.
What was your first business?
First one was an attempt at doing medical training.
Okay.
So from, basic trauma stuff to EMT stuff, CPR, first aid, just everything medical. We'll teach you that stuff. Mm-hmm. But along the way, I learned the challenges, and the return wasn't what I thought it would be when I signed up. So they're just, and another thing around this area, North Carolina, you can throw a rock any direction, and you're going to hit a former 18 Delta.
Doing challenge.
Yeah, Special Forces guy doing some sort of training. Just think of firearms training.
Oh, yeah.
It's just this community, it's saturated. So I really made some, I had some lessons learned about understanding the market and opportunities inside those markets. And I was more focused on being independent than I was at actually looking at the long term, because I have a very defiant personality. Mm-hmm. Where if you tell me no, I'll say, fuck you, I'm going to do it anyway.
Exactly.
And
that's what makes a winner. I'm going to tell you that.
Yeah.
Tell somebody they can't do something, they're going to prove you wrong.
Yeah, pretty much. And or my other side of myself, I'm a kind of a jerk too, where you did that, let me show you can do it better, right?
Yeah.
Just that kind of thing. So again, you got me going, man. I don't know how this is going to turn out on the podcast. No,
yeah, fine.
But
just don't hit the table too much.
Oh yeah, that's right. I do that a lot. But yeah, so I tried medical training, but unless you have in somewhere, it's not going to go anywhere. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Then I got into, let me make medical products, and
you just go around and you're like, let me show you something,
Yeah, exactly.
Just pay me and I'll show you something.
Mm-hmm.
But that had been the hard thing, because I was the same way. It's like, what am I going to do when I grow up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
For the second time in my life,
mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that was it, man. Like, this is, you got to, be a grown-up now, figure things out. But, again, what I found is, this is my impression. Let me clarify that. Mm-hmm. One thing I decided I don't want to do is what so many organizations in this community do. They seek contracts from the government. Mm-hmm. And that's probably, I won't say what number, but it's a very high percentage of Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
And I use the analogy of Fort Bragg's, this sow that's on our side, and the majority of businesses are sucking on one of those tits. Mm-hmm. And it's all about government funding. It's steady, it's available, it's there if you have what they're looking for. And I made the choice a while back when I started this current business. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to be dependent on the government for that.
True.
And interesting experiences along the way that kind of pointed to there's a lot of people vying for the same thing, and they're going to do what it takes to get there and succeed in that contract, for example.
Oh yeah.
So I just didn't want to play that game. I wanted to serve the community and take care of private so-and-so before I was worried about trying to, cater to that organization on Fort Bragg.
Yeah. So, I mean, the market out there, mm-hmm. is tough because, like you said, it's kind of oversaturated to do any type of medical training type thing on your own. And being a small little independent contractor guy like that,
Yep.
oh yeah, that had to have been very challenging.
Oh yeah, it was again, the company idea didn't work. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. There's guys who do it better than me, and then trying to making medical products the same thing. I wasn't in certain organizations that tied directly into that and have those lines, and I didn't have anything that groundbreaking, right? Like it's just another version of the same thing. And
like what's an example? Can you
just
give
like
us?
low visibility first aid kit, that has you open it up and say it looks like a camera bag, and you open it up and it's got everything color coded by what you need it for: red for bleeding control, white for airway. That just basic ideas that people implement in different ways. And once again, you could sell that, but what's the return on it? So it just didn't. It's hard to support that unless you're tied into a government contract, and then Unit X says we need 10,000 of these or whatever it is. And again, I didn't know then what I know now, but once again, I was just, what is it like? If at first you don't succeed, maybe failure's your style, but through that failure, I learned a lot.
Oh yeah.
And that's kind of what led us to where we are today in the current business.
Where you're just like, enough of the Delta stuff. I'm gonna go Bravo.
Yeah, and it's so funny, man, because I got a buddy who was at Bravo and he was in PA school, right? Like
the flip flop.
But I think it's a personality thing. Like once again, we've conquered this. Now let's go on to the next thing. But yeah, so getting out of the military, I did try my hand at working for some of these organizations around here that teach the military, and that wasn't what I was seeking in life. That led me to working for another organization that I'm not teaching military folks, I'm teaching civilians, and I'm getting opportunities to go to New Zealand and Kenya and see the ruins in Petra, Jordan, and they pay me to go to all these places. So that's
awesome.
Much better deal than hanging around with a bunch of dudes that just like being in the team room. Some people live for that stuff, but I wanted to do something a little different.
Yeah,
expand those horizons. So not long after I got out of the military, I got a phone call from this company, and they said, "Hey, how'd you like to go to New Zealand for 10 days to work on a yacht and teach the crew first aid?" I was like, "You fucking kidding me?"
Yeah. So, are there women?
Yeah, exactly. And all expenses paid trip. So it's been cool.
That's what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. Wait, here's a look.
That's right. You know what's going on back there, nuclear physics.
Yeah, right.
Right now, you've got a gun shop.
That's correct.
Tell us about it.
So
plug your store.
The rock guns and accessories off Yadkin Road outside of Fort Bragg, right next to General Jackson's. What I tell people is that business was born out of my experience buying firearms in Fayetteville, North Carolina. What I mean by that is, just like every other business in Fayetteville, what is their intent but to take money from the government at some level? Oh, you're private just back from deployment. Here's this brand new car with insane interest rates.
Oh yeah.
But you look good in it, so you got to do this, right? And I just wanted to establish this business to provide different services. And what we focus on is gunsmithing. We have 2 gunsmiths, a guy in gunsmithing school who works there, a machinist. We have lathes and mills and all the machines. So we're not just building ARs, like piecing things together. We can thread barrels and port, and we can build from the ground up. We have our manufacturer's license as well. So
nice.
We're moving, understanding that territory. But really, at the end of the day, it's been a rad experience in that we've had guns from the 1918 Maxim machine gun, water-cooled monstrosity that came in, and we repaired it and got it functional again.
Oh, shit.
That was cool to go test fire. And so it was the M60 and the MG42. So just really unique opportunities there.
Yeah.
And that being said, is we do gunsmithing, we do Cerakote, we do laser engraving, we do custom builds, we do manufacturing, and kydex. We make holsters and sheaths and knives. So the intent being everything done is done in that building. We're not outsourcing our work.
Nice.
And example is bringing your pistol and you want to install an optic, we can knock that out in 1 to 2 days on average, and get it installed specific to that optic. So
I was thinking, if I brought my truck, could we put like dual coaxial, like probably 7.62, 50 cal would be too big. Dual coaxial,
I'd go 7.62.
7.62 with a little joystick inside.
Absolutely.
That I can remote fire.
Yep.
That would be the shit.
It would be, actually. That's a cool idea, man.
Little flip up little lid there, and they're like, I mean, you know, you never know. I mean, you find yourself in the middle of bad guy territory, you know, like on the Merc. And then,
exactly.
You know, you got to get out of there in a hurry. You know?
What was the thing they were doing years ago? They were ambushing people on Murchison with washing machine and dryer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, what would happen is you'd be driving down certain roads and they'd push it out in the road, so you'd stop, and then they come running out and stealing from you.
Keep an eye on for that one.
But yeah.
Fayetteville,
Interesting place.
Yeah, I just thought we had to, you know, look out for the transvestite.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's them too. But again, my intent was to, as I say, serve the community, which is, to me, a good thing in that vision, but it doesn't pay as well as government contracts. But I'm fortunate. I did 20 years retirement pay plus my disability, so bills are paid for me just getting out of bed, and that's what inspired me to take this step and try to create something unique.
Yeah. Now you host like once a month or something like that for that musical thing?
Oh yeah, so it's every 2 months right now. We do a parking lot party, and the intent being is just on a Saturday provide a reason to stop and check out our store, obviously, but also promote our other businesses. Last one we had about 6 local businesses and other businesses that again we partner with or just want to support, from the massage therapist, Battle Ready Body Works, to Coleman's Creek, the range out there in Ellerby, and the Fit for Life is another example. So again, they could just set up and have a booth there, but we've had we like to have live music that day and free beer, and we had axe throwing at the last one. So
did you?
Yep.
Nice.
So again, just come hang out for a little bit, hang out all day. We don't care.
Was it a competition? Who won?
I wasn't there. I was actually.
How were you not there? That's axe throwing.
Where was I? Yeah. No.
You turned down axe
Oh, you know
throwing?
what? You know I missed. I had COVID.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was pretty messed up by that.
I heard that one like just kick your ass.
Yeah, it was brutal, but it surprised me.
Was that like round 2 of COVID? Didn't you have it before? Or
No, this is
just
my
the
first time. Yeah.
So you're a first time go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Hey.
And now I have hashtag natural immunity, right?
There you go.
And yeah, just unfortunately I was kind of fucked up when that last party happened. But we do it every couple months, and again, the intent is just to create a place where people can gather and just enjoy being out, man.
Nice. So, on this show, I like to do a factoid.
Okay.
Like just randomness. All right, I'll start off.
Okay.
Attila the Hun. 454 BC, I believe, is when he died.
Uh-huh.
He went from 434 to 454, something like that. Was killed by his new wife, El Dico.
No way.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
El Dico.
Huh.
Got him in the end.
That's crazy. Every time.
Yes.
El Dico. That's crazy.
Pronunciation might be off, but I like to go with that one, El Dico.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
So when you did the SS stuff, you went into the hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
There had been something interesting there.
Yeah. You need to have a certain level of ability to stomach certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember working in the trauma center there in Richmond, Virginia, and we had a guy there that I wanted to go check out, and I remember coming around the corner, and he just came in, let's take a look at him and talk to him, and what had happened is he'd been shot twice, as I recall, once in the gut and once in the pelvis, and after he got shot, he went home, and he went to his room, and his mom came in and said, I'm going to take care of you. So with 2 gunshot wounds. He sat at his house for over a month.
Over a month.
And didn't do anything about it until finally he couldn't walk anymore. Brought him to the hospital, and I've never seen such a hot mess of infection around that, and it went all the way down to the bone. And I'll just never forget the visual of that skin just falling off, the tissue just coming apart.
Wow.
As I looked at it, and I just remember kind of like I started yelling for my buddy just so I wanted someone else to witness that this is a real thing happening right now. But just like in everything, like people have this really amazing ability to live in a state of denial.
Yeah.
It's really not that bad. It's really not that bad until it is, right? So that was interesting.
Well, here's a good factoid. If you get shot, get your ass to the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Did they even try to get the bullet out?
Well, yeah, they apparently
dug it out?
had to debris, clean everything out, and he went through really long process.
No, like when he went home.
I have no idea. I doubt they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but gunshot wounds are interesting, and this guy was a interesting case.
Yeah.
But I'm a big fan of random factoids too. So usually I'll just have much pointless information that I'll share with somebody if they had. But you put me on the spot. You got me.
That's what happens when you put you on the spot.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'll tell you think of that while I talk about Veteran Harbor.
Absolutely.
Veteran Harbor is an amazing organization that is designed to help other 501c3 organizations as well as veterans in need. If you go to the website, www.veteranharbor.com, right there, things that we do to help the people out there, you'll see on the website ramps for warriors, the Robert Lee Project, where we're attempting to refurbish this man's house and make it the very first Veteran Harbor house. That's our goal. Still a work in progress, for sure, to say the least. But if you are interested, the Sierra Oscar Foxtrot podcast will be hosted on the Veteran Harbor website on its own little page. Feel free to check it out. Check us out. Make a donation to a great, awesome cause of Veteran Harbor if you want to. At least, at the minimal, you'll be entertained.
Absolutely. So I thought of the random factoid.
What is it?
It's related to the bubonic plague, the Black Death in Europe in the 1300s.
All right.
Number one, did you know that the plague doctors, everyone seemed to, the thing that, the uniform, if you will, and that was pretty much one of the first hazmat suits created because they would get the fabric and actually dip it in an oil-like substance so it would, things would stick to it. It wouldn't get to the skin.
Okay.
And the mask was actually designed to cover the face, and the beak, they would put nice smelling herbs in there. And what they believed back then was that disease was caused by bad smells or a miasma. And there was a group of people who actually believed that to cure or prevent the plague, because it was based on a bad smell, that to prevent it, you go smell something worse. So what people would do was gather around latrines, think an outhouse, and stick their faces in there and breathe in those fumes as long as they could to prevent from breathing in the fumes from the Black Death.
Interesting.
Yeah, pretty interesting.
So, like, in a survival situation, you shit in your hand, you're like, all right, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So, if you're afraid of the flu, maybe, shit in your hand.
Yeah.
Get something, a different level of miasma there. But yeah, it was interesting to
at least
to
if you keep it in your hand, you can pass it on to others. Here, take this. It's important.
Yeah, exactly.
Save your life.
What a weird world we live in. I never imagined 5 years ago that I would own a business, number one, in Fayetteville, and be in front of that business with a loaded gun, ready to defend it with my 15-year-old son.
Yes, you're working. You got your kid working with you, right?
Yep. And the point of that being is during the riots when they tried to burn down the market house and they were looting Walmart right down the street from our store.
Yeah.
Pretty hectic. And it's just been interesting to watch the trends escalate. And if you get a chance, man, watch. It's a long thing to watch, but it's called, just Google Yugoslavia, Death of a Nation. And it's a YouTube series. It was a BBC series, but now you can find it on YouTube. And it talks about how in the early 90s, there was a person who came into the government, and his theme was hundreds of years ago, our people were pushed down. We've been mistreated ever since. we want our revenge, we want our reparations, and that led to Yugoslavia turning into how many 6 different countries.
Yes.
And people don't understand the level of violence that happened there unless they actually walked around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they haven't seen it. You mention it to people. The term Balkanism comes from that. And
Okay.
let's separate people into smaller groups, get them to hate each other while we stay in power.
Yeah.
So,
Tribalism.
yep. And just to see the trends happening here in this country that we grew up in.
Yeah.
Remember baseball and apple pie? Mm-hmm. And now I don't know what the hell it is.
It's TikTok.
Yeah, it's TikTok.
That's
and
the next thing.
they, or he, or whatever the hell your pronouns are these days.
I keep the regular pronouns.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
What was I telling, like, my youngest? I have a 5-year-old son. You know how you just let things fly, and I mentioned when I got blown up in 2008, driving an RG31, and we hit an IED in the road.
Yeah.
Or actually, I don't really know where. But the point is, I was telling my youngest about it, and it took the wheel off and threw us through the air and all that crap.
Yeah.
And what was it? One thing that happened is, I remember telling some people about it, and the key was, don't tell my wife, right?
Yeah.
And eventually I get home, and then I tell her, like, hey, here's what happened while I was over there. I didn't want you to know it while I was
Never
there.
works.
Yeah, but it worked. She didn't know. Like,
What?
Yeah, and I'll just never forget because,
Damn, I was on the wrong team.
yeah. Point of that being is, I just remember she was talking to her friend, my buddy John or whatever, like his wife. My wife was bitching to her about, like, and he didn't even tell me, and then her friend's like, gets nervous, and she's like, you knew too, you know. But,
Wow, that's impressive because that's what the wife network is always better. Seems to be stronger. You can be like, don't tell anybody.
oh yeah, the
Like,
word travels fast.
No shit, there I was coming back from a mission 9,000 feet up, trying to drive my Razor down a rocky mountain,
Yeah.
and I rolled the fucker. Came out on the 8th, and my TC guy, he came out like on the 12th roll, you know.
Fuck that. That's
So like shit everywhere, you know, and his knees messed up really bad. Mine's just sore. I was like, fuck it, I don't care about me. I had to sit myself and the team sergeant sat with that thing and let the team walk all the way back to the our little place to come back and get us new tires because the tires were all flat.
That's crazy.
So we're like in bad guy land, just the two of us are like hanging out, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You can see like flashlights and shit going all over the place.
It's nuts, man.
But so we get back, and then, you know, I'm talking to the wife, and I'm like, yeah, blah, blah, we did this, blah, blah, did that, you know. And then she's like, well, you know, you better tell me what's going on because you're acting funny, blah, blah. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, nothing, you know. Oh, that's what I said. I said, well, I slipped on some rocks, is what I told her.
Nice.
So I was like, yeah, you know, we were up on this mountain, I slipped some rocks, you know. Oh my God, you know, I was like, this is horrible. It's like, well, you know, look, you know, because, and then I'm like, and I've dealt with this on previous deployments, it's like the wife network, they know everything. Because
find
one
out
guy
quick, yeah.
tells his wife, who tells everybody else,
Mhm.
and you just can't get around it. So then I'm like, all right, well, maybe it was more than just some rocks.
Yeah. We had one, man, in 2008, we had a day where one of our RGs got stuck, and then all hell broke loose, and RPGs cut. You know, I remember one RPG landed right in front of my team sergeant, and he disappears in this fucking cloud of dust.
Really?
I'm like, oh, fuck, JD's dead, you know, that kind of thing. And as the dust clears, I see him limping away, and his legs all fucked up from the shrapnel. And then that was just the beginning of, like, an interesting day, and it was like 12 hours of fucking 107s and trying to keep the standoff and fucking calling in help, and some infantry unit actually came to the fucking rescue because we were just getting our asses handed to us. We were planning an ammo drop because we were about black on Mark 19 and all that shit. It was a fucked up day. And then we finally get home, rest, and everyone's calling their wives the next day. And my buddy, his same thing happened where his wife's like, what happened? He's like, I don't want to talk about it. You know, just, you don't want to know. And she's like, no, you tell me right now. And he's like, okay, fine, I'm telling you. And then he told her what he could.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, she's like, I wish you'd never told me that. Because that just made it worse. It's like, I fucking told you. Like,
You know, people are here trying to shoot us and kill us, you know, and stuff like that.
there are, literally people who want me dead.
The only time I actually directed, I said everybody needs to go tell their wives, was when they blew up our base.
Yeah.
So that was September 1st, 2012. And this is after, so we closed our village stability platform out there in the Yonkai because a colonel said, nah, go to Jalrez.
Right.
You know, and this is after, so the team before us lost 3 guys there. And then we come in. And I tell you, our initial contact with the enemy was an RPG right in between the heads of this team leader and the JTAC.
Holy fuck.
I mean, yeah, it went, the nose, fin nose of the RPG hit him right in the nose, you know? The fin did. That was like crazy. But that was our initial thing. But anyway, so
That's fucking crazy.
3 days of packing up, constantly shooting, you know, at people and them shooting back at us while we pack up. And then that evening was kind of cool because I blew up the fuel tank thing. I let one of my guys do it. It was kind of fun. We were a little closer than I thought we would be.
Right.
Like there's still like half a thing of fuel in this tank.
Nice.
And we were just over the wall. And we blew it up in this huge like cloud of like flame and fire and shit just coming toward us. And I was like, wow, are we too close?
Yeah.
And then like right as it came to us, it kind of dissipated. I'm like, oh, I guess we're all right. But yeah, so we drove back that night and pulled up some IEDs on the way back. We're back at 5 o'clock in the morning. And like everyone's like either in bed, I'm in the shower. Next thing you know, you feel this whoosh and this big shock wave comes right through you.
Oh, fuck.
I know. And I'm in the shower and, you know, I'm like, V-bid, wash hair. And because, dude.
That was that big one.
Oh, it was a big one, yeah. It was like, it was a whole dump truck. It was like
I remember
12,000 pounds of explosives.
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous, man.
Yeah. Dude, I tell you though, that explosion, it took the mirror off the wall and like shattered in the stall next to me.
That's fucking crazy.
Oh, I know. It fucked everything up. But, yeah, you know, I was all right with that one. Now I wonder, so that's a huge V-bid. What was the criteria for a Purple Heart? Because we didn't think about it at the time. But, you know, now we're out. And we're like, yeah. Would that have counted if your whole base blows up, leaving a huge crater?
Not unless you had some sort of injury that was documented. So, like, if shrapnel had come through the wall and, you know, punctured your wherever and you got treated for that, it needs to be recorded that way. Like that day from hell I told you about our...
Yeah.
My truck was stuck. There's another one supporting us. And I'll never forget my fucking team sergeant. We're in the back of an RG and I'm like trying to give him the morphine auto injector and get an IV going and do all that bullshit. And helicopters inbound to pick him up. And there's this big field next to us. I remember this 107 fucking flies right overhead and lands right in that field. But 150 yards away kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Jesus Christ, this sucks. And then they pick him up. We run him out and he leaves. Then we come back and then we had 2 other trucks and our warrant and a couple guys took those 2 trucks to go meet with the infantry dudes. And I just remember them like disappearing over the hill.
Yeah.
And then I hear on the radio, hey, we just got mortared and we're fucked up. And apparently like my warrant, he fucking round landed and he went flying through the air.
Oh shit.
And like it was a fucked up day. And bottom line is that, you know, he got his bell rung, got fucked up a little bit. And then later on it was kind of like, oh, does this qualify for a Purple Heart? Do I want one? So, but the big thing is you have to have some sort of documented. That's how I understand it, at least.
Okay.
Do that.
I was always curious about that because, I mean, everybody got messed up. But yeah, after that, I said, all right, this will probably make the news because this is a big one. Everybody call home now. Tell everybody you're fine, you know. So that's...
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. My first ODA was probably... It's one of those highlights of your life kind of thing. Like, there's rare moments where you look around and go, I like every one of these motherfuckers. And this is just fucking fun, right? Even though we're in this weird place. And just that brief moment in history, like a fucking lighthouse. There it is, and it's gone, right?
Yeah.
And one thing that affected the dynamic is 3 of our guys got killed by an IED. And, you know, there's that fucking bummer, right? But I guess what I was just trying to say is we had a really good team on the other side where we didn't have that nosy wife who had to watch the news and try to put pieces together and you know, fucking the charts on the wall. You know, here's what I think they're doing. And, you know, there's you know, they all kind of, I felt like they understood. and they bonded well together and kind of support on that end. But there was no like what the hell happened kind of stuff. We held it together really well. But again, it was that interesting experience just because we were fucking dialed in. Family drama always, but just a fucking great team. And then we lost those 3 dudes. And as soon as you change personalities, the dynamic changes, and it's just a whole different organization, whole different group of people.
Oh yeah.
So it was a lesson for me in that, I don't want to call it chemistry, but that group dynamic.
Oh, it is. Yeah. You think even as small as 12 guys, don't have little sub cliques, and they're just people that you naturally mesh with better than others. And,
yeah, exactly.
And everyone gets to feel for one another, and everybody knows, what they can and can't do, or can and can't say. And
again, it's what is it? I wasn't an athlete in high school. I didn't hang out with the cool kids. I just did my own thing, right? So you join the Army, and everywhere you go, it's the same shit. There's like the cool kids and the fucking, the jocks and the fucking weirdos hanging out in the bed. Like, just, it's this weird mixture of people.
Yeah.
But everywhere you go, it turns into that dynamic. Like, how do you know you're in the same room? What's the joke? Like, how do you know you're in the same room with fill in the blank, a Navy SEAL? Or you feeling, you name it, and oh, don't worry, they'll tell you. And even that, like, oh, you were this, but were you this? You were in the Army, but were you infantry? Or you were infantry, but were you in the Rangers? Or you were SF, yeah, but were you an assaulter? Shit like that.
Yeah.
And it always builds on itself.
Oh, sure.
And,
You're looks like you were a fighting age male.
Yeah.
Let me sniff that ass. I want to find out who you were.
Yeah, exactly. Here, let's see it. I got to compare.
That's right. Like,
I'm not trying to perpetuate the fucking tribe. I want to build a community around people who I've never owned a gun. I've never fucking held one in my hand. Who am I going to go to? Am I going to go to the guys who are like, the fuck do you know? Get, buy this bullshit and get out of here. Hey, come on in. Let's show you. Let's work with you. So just last week, I think it was last week, I had a woman in her 70s that I took out, gave her a class, got her familiar to get her an idea on what she would want to defend herself in her home because she lives alone.
Yeah.
Husband passed away kind of thing. And that's the reason I want to do this, not to just continue to build on whatever I feel I did was cool.
Yeah.
If I had my fucking dream, I'd be at home fucking writing songs and jamming with the band and fucking drawing pictures, right? I'm like a super sensitive artistic type. I just happen to have been lucky enough to do some cool shit.
It's in his core, the super sensitive mushy.
Yeah, man, I fucking cry myself to sleep every night.
Single tear go by.
Exactly. But again, and that's what I've always loved about life, man. There's just so many different types of people out there, but we tend to want to be tribal. We want our people like us, and we kind of fall into that.
Where do you see your son that's working with you now, where do you see him going in the future?
That's a good question, man. I'll say I'm super proud of that kid. He's going to get his learner's permit at the end of this week.
Oh, really?
So I'm pretty stoked because, we're going through the process. North Carolina throws all these fucking gates to get through so that someone can drive.
He's almost at the end of his.
Yeah.
That's Ty, our technician I let out of the attic.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've let him out so he could help us with this particular podcast. Then I'll put him back up in the attic. Mm-hmm. But he's you've got just like 2 hours left on your nighttime driving.
Oh, nice.
Yes, and then he'll be free as a bird.
And then you'll have your actual, you can do whatever you want license. That's kick-ass.
That is in the attic, of course.
Yeah. Back to the attic, yeah. Till we let you out again.
That's right.
Absolutely. But yeah, it's funny, man, because with the way current trends are, the military is the top choice. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I was like, here's my recommendation I would tell him. You can join the Army, you can get these certain skills, and by the time you're mid-20s, you have a choice. You can just take that and leave and go somewhere else. I knew a kid in 7th group. I didn't know him well, but I knew him well enough to know that he was, he joined the Army right out of high school, became an 18 Delta, and then got out of the Army after his enlistment was up to go to school because parents own a Fortune 500 company, so he's going to go be an executive there, kind of thing,
Okay.
and to just run the business one day, right?
Yeah.
And that being said, he goes into that business with Special Forces, Medical Sergeant, Ranger Tab, Dive Bubble. I think he just got all these qualifications that hold so much credibility over the long term. And he's got experience that the average, kid going to college doesn't have.
True.
And that, to me, has been a big part of how to set someone up for success.
Yeah.
Me getting out of the military, I've done enough where people say, oh, shit, you're, whatever, you were an 18 Delta, cool. Then that gives you a certain level of credibility versus having worked in EMS for 10 years, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's a big difference with the military. So there's a lot of good opportunities there. And I learned a lot about people, some of the schools we go to in those organizations where you can learn a lot about people and just get a big picture of the world. So for me, it's always been about that, understanding there's a big world out there, more than just our neighborhood.
Oh, yeah,
How many people did we grow up with who were still at home, going to the same bar every Friday night? A couple of years ago, I told you about teaching the medical stuff.
Yeah.
I went and taught a summer camp up in Minnesota on the staff.
Okay.
And it's like they do a 4-week program and an 8-week program, and it's an island up on Rainy Lake, which is near International Falls on the Canadian border. So to get to this camp, they throw you on a boat and take you out there. And what they do is it's all boys
Okay.
between the ages of 10 and 18.
Okay.
And as you get older, in different groups. And what they do is they go on trips. And they used to do canoe trips up into Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And the big trip when you were like 18 years old, 16 to 18, they go up into the Hudson Bay
Okay.
on canoes, carrying everything with you. It's a fucking cool thing. Like
They-
20 days to get there.
Out in the bay? They go to
They hit the Hudson Bay. So they're at the shores of the Hudson Bay by the end of the trip. So
Okay.
they start in Canada, somewhere in Canada, and go down the rivers and lakes.
No chance of getting lost at sea.
Right, no chance of that. But I've done a couple trips. They call it father-son trip. Me and my son went up there and did like 50, 60 miles from point A in Canada to the U.S. border.
Yeah.
And it's cool, man. It's a good experience.
Yeah.
And so I get my son up there every summer. This last summer, he did a canoe trip up in the Boundary Waters up there in the Great Lakes in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Like a 10-day trip, and then came back, did some stuff on the island. They learned, what did he learn? How to sail, how to canoe, how to climb, boxing. And they do all these other classes. Outdoors, you have to learn woodsmanship, so
Oh, yeah.
how to use an axe, how to start a fire, all that stuff, how to set up a camp. And then he went to Utah with another group, and they hiked up to the highest peak in Utah.
Oh, there you go.
And again, but the point of that being is so he could kind of see what's out there more than, because he's never been out west other than those trips.
Mm-hmm.
Like now he knows those vistas that you get out in Utah and Arizona and shit like that. It's cool as fuck, man. And the point of that being is just to kind of give him a taste of there's more out there than whatever is local. Because again, we tend to want to run in that same little circle, and we know guys and girls who've done that.
True.
But we've been fortunate where we got to go have these really high adventures.
That's awesome.
And I guess my point is I've learned through this other organization, Remote Medical, I've got to teach classes with a guy who was at Everest Base Camp in Nepal during the earthquake, and he's a remote EMT, so he actually helped with relief efforts after that earthquake down in Nepal. And, there's more than just the military to go see the world, is
Yeah.
the point.
Okay.
And I'm kind of, I hope that he goes into some sort of job that keeps him occupied that way and doesn't just want to like be a lawyer, or whatever, computer tech. But, whatever he wants to do, man, just be good at it and take care of your people.
Yeah.
I think that's the bottom line. But I'm not real keen on him joining the military right now just because I'm one of the lucky ones. I got out of the Army before I had to sit through a transgender brief and all the other
I'm
craziness.
glad I'm retired. Yeah.
All the craziness to throw at these young people.
Yeah.
And how many people are leaving the military nowadays?
Yes. Well, there's a reason for that.
Yeah. And again, it's just not the organization I first joined in the late 90s. My wife had this idea that I retire from the Army and then be home all the time.
No, yeah. Now, I learned from others who got out before me that you work harder not in the Army. But in some sense, though, I feel it's more gratifying,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I just saw an article recently where a guy basically said, I want to be independent.
Yep.
And right now, I'm completely independent.
Yes.
I run the show. Not as an ego trip, but just to say I'm free to do whatever choices we want to make. And just to have that freedom is the best feeling in the world.
Yep.
And even if it collapses and, we fail miserably, at least it was on my terms.
True.
I did everything in my power, and we got some cool stories along the way.
That's right.
So being an entrepreneur is one of the coolest things I've ever done.
Yeah.
And hopefully we continue to show that we're not perfect, but we can make a positive impact. So, again, the goal is to take care of people, not just to make money off, some generic service.
Yep.
And so stop by the Rock Guns, 6113 Yadkin Road, Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Bam. Or check out their website.
Yeah, www.therockguns.com. And one last story before we go. The name The Rock Guns.
Yes.
Have you heard that one?
No.
Briefly? So,
Rock.
Yeah, so my grandfather, when he was 13, his father died in a mining accident in Oklahoma. Being the oldest son, my grandfather had to take care of the family. So during the Depression, he rode trains all over the country as a carpenter to raise, do work and send money back home to the family. Based on his carpentry skills, after Pearl Harbor happened, December 7, 1941, he went out there to help rebuild Pearl Harbor.
No shit.
And while he was there, they had a group of people going to Midway Island. So he went out there to work as the battle was happening.
Oh.
So he was a carpenter on Midway Island as the planes were flying toward the Japanese carriers. And at that point, he said, you know what? I need to be part of this. Joined the Army, became a combat engineer,
There we go.
and became a paratrooper.
Nice.
And then in 1945, February 1945, that was the push to liberate Asia, the Philippines, and Manila Bay, where the capital is. There's an island in the middle of that bay called Corregidor Island, and that was a stronghold that they needed to secure before they could push into Manila Bay. And prior to the airborne operation on that island, they bombarded it to prep the target.
Yeah.
And because of that, it earned nicknamed the Rock.
Okay.
So Corregidor Island in the Philippines was nicknamed the Rock. They did an airborne operation February 16, 1944, and my grandfather was one of those paratroopers.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they jumped on a tiny drop zone with cliffs on one side, Japanese on the other. At 500 feet, they didn't even have reserves because it was so low.
Yeah.
And held out there until the infantry landed on, the beach landings. All that being said, that's why we named it the Rock, because that organization became known as the Rock Regiment.
Okay.
And that's why we named it the Rock. So
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Honored my grandfather and what he did, but I thought it was perfect that we're next to Fort Bragg, home of the airborne.
Yes.
And one last thing is on February 19th, my birthday, 1944, of course I came later, my grandfather was blinded. He got shot in the head, and it hit him in the temple, came out the other side, and severed his optic nerve, so he was, of course, sent home blind. And after arriving back home as a blind, wounded veteran, he started a little hot dog stand with the VA benefits that he had, and then ended up owning a restaurant and a hardware store, and then several cafeterias. Then he got into real estate, so he never stopped despite the obstacles that were put in front of him. He could have easily just said, I'm just going to live off the government and call it a day.
Yeah.
But he died owning property all over the country.
That's awesome.
And, a big family, a good family, and he never quit. And that's what, to me, embodies the attitude of a paratrooper. And we just wanted to honor that by naming our business The Rock, in honor of him and, of course, everyone who went ahead of us to pave the way.
There you go. Dude, that's awesome. That's a great backstory. Sean Connery had nothing to do with it.
Exactly.
Welcome to The Rock. You could have him introduce you, though. Well, not anymore. He's
Not
dead.
anymore, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we could figure it out.
But that's amazing. And I know you've got a picture of him there at the shop with the little background story. So that's awesome.
And if you look closely, you see the note he wrote to my grandmother on it. Because, what is it, the family story. He got engaged to my grandmother, and he came back blind and said, hey, listen, I'm useless. I have nothing to offer. I'm going to spend the rest of my life at a VA home in a wheelchair. And my grandmother's response was, well, you're gonna have to get used to me sitting in your lap. I'm not going anywhere. So I'm like, fuck that. I'm marrying you. I said I would. I'm gonna do it. So
Nice.
I feel fortunate that that's the kind of people that I come from.
Yeah.
Hopefully, despite my fuck ups in life, I can achieve that same status somehow.
I think you're on your way. I mean,
Yeah, we're trying.
that's you're setting forward, and you're not gonna let anything deter you. Nothing.
Yeah.
Shit happens. Things are gonna not work out sometimes, but you find that other avenue, you will succeed because you're willing it to. I think. So that I think is an awesome run through of Mr. Sam Crazy Eyes Castillo.
I like the crazy eyes thing. I never heard that before.
Dude,
I do get people asking me why I'm pissed all the time.
Nah, I don't think you're pissed. You're just planning to overthrow the government. Just kidding, though. He's
Yeah,
not
exactly.
really.
No, not really.
Not really. It's
Yeah, seriously.
yeah,
Yeah.
something serious is going to happen. You're thinking about it right now. I could tell.
One of my favorite things to do is if I don't know you very well, I'll find a way to put you under stress, quickly, and then you get a really good read on people. Just
So, like, if you just walked up and we didn't know each other, you just drop your drawers. You're like, yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'd be
And,
like, all right, well.
You might say, what the fuck's wrong with you? Or you might go, are you sure you want to do that? Wham,
Nut check.
Yeah, nut check.
So,
But once again, I was a medic too, so
yeah, you're used to things like that,
don't
and-
play gay chicken with one of us.
Well, I think that's all the time we got for today. This is all we got. Man, it's good seeing you again.
man.
And go do great things.